Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to another installment of Camp NaNoWriMo Prep, where I prep alongside what I'm loosely calling advice. Y'all, we are only 1 week away. 1 week until Camp NaNoWriMo starts. In honor of that, today I'm going to be talking about scene creation. Ooh. This doesn't mean that we're immediately jumping into a huge outline or a chapter by chapter work or anything like that. This is just, you know, ideally you get into that. Ideally you'll have built up enough so that you will have a full outline. And honestly, I don't always have everything outlined. I like to. In my ideal NaNoWriMo world, I would have everything outlined before I started working because inevitably I go off track somewhere. And so it helps me to have the outline done and completed, so at least if I go off too far, I can kind of figure out a way to get back to where I was supposed to be. But there's usually some chunks in the middle that I just have no idea about. But that's not what this week is about. This week is about what you do know. As far as prepping goes, whether you're a planner or you're a pantser, I think we all have something in common, which is that before we start writing, we have some idea of a couple of scenes where we're like, ooh, this would be really cool to include, or oh, this has to be the catalyst, or like, just as you're formulating your idea about the characters and you're just kind of wondering about the world, you inevitably think about a scene. We may not even have all of the characters created yet, but we do know this one thing, and then we know another thing and another thing, and on it builds, and that's scene creation. Or scene writing down is what we're gonna do today, I guess. I've made a video before about how to storyboard, which is ultimately where this would go if you got enough of your scenes created, but we're not gonna get that far today. For every scene, I have a couple things that I write down every time. And yes, I try to do this on actual note cards. If you have Scrivener, which is one of the like cool bonus things that you can get for really cheap after NaNoWriMo or after Camp NaNoWriMo, they have a really cool system within their program that you can just kind of move scenes around, and that's basically what we're gonna do today. But you gotta use what you got, and for me, that's note cards. So a couple things I do for every single note card, aka every single scene. I write down a title, like the big death. This title doesn't have to make sense to anyone but you, and it's not even the same thing as like a chapter title if you want to do chapter titles later. I guess it could be. I'm getting ahead of myself. The title is just something that when you look at it, you know exactly what's gonna happen in that scene. You know what it is describing. Next, you wanna put the characters in the scene, and you can add to this as you as you learn more about the characters and as you realize which characters are actually gonna be in the scene, but I find this super helpful for later when you're going back and actually revising and editing. Next up, I always put the location. So basically the setting, or like if it's a battle, you just put the battle. Now, if you're writing a historical fiction novel, or if you're writing like a memoir and you have an actual date, all the better, put that date down. Typically for me, this is some kind of like specific room where it's like in my head, the scene is here. And so I write that room down. And then on the back of the card, I write down a quick description, which is just everything that I know. I kind of just throw my head at the note card. This is more key for like any dialogue that I know has to be there. Like in my head, I see this scene and this character says this, I write that down. Or an important plot point within the scene, like if this is a turning point, I write that down too. And now you're going to place your note card along Freytag's pyramid, which is what we covered before. And that's more or less just kind of figuring out where in the story this scene is going to take place. And if you're like, I have no idea, this is just the only scene I'm thinking of, I think you might actually know a little bit more than you think you do. And this is another great reason to use Freytag's pyramid, because you kind of just have 5 options. So you just kind of gotta ask yourself, is it in the few initial scenes? No, then it's not in the exposition phase. Is it in the conclusion? Is it toward the very end of the story? No. Is it important but it's not the climax because, you know, some more important stuff still needs to happen in the story? Then there you go, it's on the rising action, the big part of the triangle of Freytag's pyramid. A lot of your stuff is going to be in the rising action, so go ahead and place it there for now, and then when you're playing with things later, you can kind of move them around within the little pyramid. My hands are just where. Do this for as many scenes as you can think of, and then you will play around with it along Freytag's pyramid. And that's actually my favorite thing about scene creation anyways, is that you can move the scenes around to give you the most impact. I think a lot of times an outline can feel really rigid, so doing scene creation and being able to move them around really allows you to play with your plot a little bit more and create the best story that you can. Some other important questions regarding scene creation is like, how do I know when it's a new scene? And I was talking to my friend about this, but for me, anytime the characters move locations, I make that a new scene. This doesn't mean that if they're on like a long part of a walk, it doesn't mean that it's like a separate scene every time they get to a new place. The walk itself is one scene. And like Clue, if they go from the library and now they're in the conservatory and there's gonna be different discussions in each place, different reasons for what they're doing. Two different scenes. But then also you gotta ask yourself if the desires of the main character changed within the exact same setting. In which case, if there's like a before and after, if there's a marked difference between this character and what they're thinking and feeling, I make those two different scenes too. I'm very quick to say that each thing needs to have its own note card, but that's just because it's easier to get that jagged part of Freytag's pyramid that way, and it just helps a little bit when you're looking at things later and you're like, oh yeah, that was that thing. This also for me helps better identify different character arcs. Since you're usually having multiple characters, not just your main character, that need to have their own arcs, I find that having extra note cards, more note cards than you think you need, is the key. I got fun colored pins, fun colored note cards, and I do have extra this time because I still haven't decided what story I'm going to choose, but I am leaning towards one, and I think I've decided, but I'm still not sure yet. So I'm pretty sure though. I'm like 75-25 toward one story, so, and I only have a week left to decide. So really, I need to get to 100% if I can. All right, that's it for scene creation. Please comment down below and let me know how you actually plot out your novel. Do you have scenes that spring to mind before you start writing? And unrelated, but I've been thinking about it recently, have y'all ever written a story and realized halfway through that it was missing a character and written them in? I would love to hear about it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all very soon with a new video. Bye. Ooh. Oh, look, the wrong thing is up. Camp Nano's back.